And it's recording now. Okay, so exercise 1H is reliant on the fact that you have so far at least practiced 1E, 1F, and maybe a bit of 1G. With those put together, then 1H is just fluency. Most of if you look at the exercise, it's huge on fluency because the only thing you're really getting tested here is fluency skills. So as long as you follow a particular algorithm, you memorize, you practice enough, then 1H is pretty easy. There's less so on problem solving and reasoning compared to the other ones. So here I'm really looking at fluency. So I'm just going to show you some examples. But let's begin. BODMAS or BIDMAS doesn't matter. It still has the same orders. B stands for what? Brackets. Very good. Fill it in. So we got brackets. I'm going to draw the symbol. O, which normally represents order, but then they changed it to indices because a lot of students didn't know what order means. And order means indices. And some students still don't know what indices are, so I say powers. So you can fill that in if you didn't know. So the powers is what an order is. Why is it called order? Because when you get to senior levels, when you do something to power 3, power 4, we don't call it powers anymore. We actually talk about the polynomial with an order. That's the reasoning, but the language that I'm using you may not understand, so it's okay. Just think of order as indices or powers. D, which is what? Division. So we got division. So the symbol here. Multiplication for M. Now here's a common mistake, which actually, it's funny because I taught this to the other class and I said it in this video and right in this particular moment, and the students still made the same mistake even though I already pre-surfaced it. Here's the most common mistake I see at a junior level. See, division and multiplication, because it's BODMAS, a lot of students remember it as number 1 is brackets, they forget about indices, and they go 2 and 3. Wrong. Okay, division, multiplication are exactly the same. It just so happens in the order it looks like division's first. No, they're both the same operation. They're just inverse of one another. So technically, doesn't matter which one comes, it's like whether D comes first or M comes first, it doesn't matter. It's whatever goes left to right. So when you do it and you see lots of divisions and you see a lot of multiplications, work left to right. Don't do it what makes you feel good. And I'll show you an example of what I mean later. And this is what exactly happened after even I said this. The other class, the student still called me over and said, "Sir, I don't know what I've done wrong." And I went through it and exactly the same thing. It's left to right. So when you see something like this, division, multiplications, even if it's jumbled in order, you don't have to do division first. You just do left to right. Write that in. Lasalia.
Is it the same thing with addition and subtraction?
Beautiful. Exactly. Addition and subtraction, same mistake as well. So usually it happens with division multiplication because a lot of students like multiplication and they hate division, or they don't know how to do division. That's why they often do multiplication first, then they do division. The problem with that is that if you switch the order, you get the different answer, and the answer just goes left to right. So that's what happened with the other class. That particular student did exactly that. They chose multiplication because they like it better. It's not about what you like, you follow the order. Yeah, so addition, subtraction, like Lasalia just mentioned, they are the same operation, they're just inverses. So whatever comes first, so left to right. Okay, so write that in. I'll be interested to see who's going to make that mistake again. Okay, so it's just one of those things. Something about junior levels, when they say BODMAS, they just stick to the letters, but not understanding the operation. Okay? All right, so today's lesson is really just practicing that order. You're just following, get rid of all the brackets, get rid of any powers, get rid of any division or multiplication, and then any addition or subtraction. So here's the first example. A, you got 4 times bracket 2 minus 6. Now, according to BODMAS, so here we go, I'm going to write it in, BODMAS, what comes first? Can I please have Yuri? What comes first in this example? Brackets. So B is first, and I look at it and I say, yes, I do have brackets. So you look at the brackets and you say, what is inside the brackets? Well, right now I've got a 2 subtract 6. 2 subtract 6 equals what? Let's go with Harley. -4. Very good. So this here, 2, again, practicing 1E or 1F. And if you're not confident with this, use a number line. That's why I gave it to you on the page there. Okay. So we now know 2 minus 6 is going to be -4, and we still have the 4. We still have the times symbol, and this is now solved to be -4 because I did the brackets first. Now for those, when you're laying this out, remember question, vertical layout, method, then answer. If you weren't sure about 2 minus 6, do your working out on the side. So do it over here. So if you weren't sure, you can do 2 minus 6 equals -4, use a number line, whatever, but do it separate from this. Don't write here 2 minus 6 equals and then follow on again, because that's confusing for people. Each line must make sense. So this line is equivalent to this line should be equivalent to that line as well. Yeah? So now the brackets are gone, I look for the next one. Order, there is no powers. So I go to division or multiplication. Okay, they're the same level. So here I happen to have a multiplication. So I'm now multiplying 4 times -4, which is what? Yes, Aman. -16. Now this is last exercise, so 1G for those who've forgotten. Again, this is a positive number, that's a +4. This is a negative number, and when the signs are different, that's a negative. When the signs are the same, it's positive. It only works for multiplication and division. Okay? So, answer is -16 for the first one. So far, so good. Hands up if that made sense to you. Okay, good. I've got a good chunk of you. So most of you, I'm pretty confident you'll be able to do that bit. The only mistake might occur from 1G. Okay, so depending on how much you've practiced so far. So the 1G leads to that, but you understand the order. Let's try another one. Let's go to B. So B, this time, the only thing I change is a bit inside the brackets. So this is where some students get a bit confused. You see this one, it says -6 take away 2 times brackets -3. You would say BODMAS. What comes first again? Brackets. So inside the brackets, unlike before, there was something to do. This one, there's nothing to do. So that's okay. Nothing wrong. It just means that the brackets here says you have -3. So you write it in without the brackets. Okay, that's all it is. Yeah, whereas before, you actually had to calculate what 2 minus 6 was, and then you remove the brackets. Well, now, you don't have to calculate anything. It's just -3 and remove the brackets. Keep everything else the same. So I still have a -6. I still have a take away 2, and I still have the times to whatever this number is. Now the brackets are gone. I still don't have any powers. Then I look for division or multiplication. Do I have division or multiplication? Yes. Okay, now, this step here separates into 2 potential ways to solve it, and depends on your strength. I'm going to teach you the way that I think it should be taught, and then you could do it, if you're very strong, you can do it the other way. Yeah? So, this is how I think the proper way is, because remember I said there's a difference between subtraction and negative. They're 2 very different things. One's a sign, one's an operation. This here to me is saying you've got -6. Okay? This is still a subtract, not a negative. That's a subtract. But you said times comes next. So what am I multiplying? I am multiplying 2, not -2, because that's a minus, not negative. I'm timesing 2 to -3. Okay, so you don't have to do it this way, but I'm just showing you this is the proper way. So I've still got subtract. What am I subtracting? Well, I'm doing multiplication next. So 2 times -3. What is 2 times -3? -6. Very good. Again, be careful here. This is a +2 there, and this is a negative. So positive, negative gives you a -6. That right there. So the subtraction's always been there. I haven't changed it. All I did was 2 times -3. That's how I got my -6. Now multiplication is gone. When you answer this part of the question, this is exercise 1F. See, 1F is here saying you owe $6. You're in debt. Then you lose debt. Now, when you lose debt, meaning if I removed your debt, are you gaining or are you losing? Gaining, because I took away your debt. If you owed $6 and I went up to you and I said, forget about it, well, it's now your money. You don't have to worry about that extra $6 that you got to pay me. So it's a gain. So the next step is -6. Losing debt is the same thing as gaining. You're gaining 6. But since you owe $6 before and now you gain $6, what's your net result? 0. Now that's the proper way of doing it. But I do know a lot of students do this other way. And this is where students get confused. So if you're strong, you don't get confused. And then the ones who are trying to learn this particular way gets confused because they ask the strong students, hey, how'd you do this? And they teach them their way, and they get confused about those negatives. This is what the strong students do. So strong students do this. -6 minus 2 times -3, right? This is what strong students do. And they don't actually show the steps clearly. That's why it's confusing. This is what strong students do. They go, okay, times is next. And they say, that's -2. See, it's not -2, but they say that minus sign, they change it to a negative. And they say -2 times -3. Now, what's -2 times -3? +6, because double negatives is positive. And then they have -6 at the front. In a way, they've skipped all the way to this step here. And they say -6 plus 6 gives you 0. So they're correct. But you see where this is why students who are on the middle end, when they learn it from their stronger students, they say, was that a negative or was it a minus? And that's why people often mix the two, because they feel it's the same. What's actually missing in this step here that is not explicitly said by the strong students, and maybe they don't even realize that they're skipping this step. This is what they're skipping. They're skipping the fact that they changed a minus symbol. They converted it to a plus. It's like gaining -2 times -3, because gaining debt is the same thing as losing overall. So they converted a subtraction to a plus a debt. But they might not even realize that's what they're doing. So they may have learnt it from their tutor or their parents. That's -2 times -3, and they jumped here, they get to +6. But what they're actually really doing is they converted the subtraction sign to an addition sign. If you add debt, it's the same thing as losing. So they just converted losing into gain debt. So -2 times -3, and that's why they solved this bit. -2 times -3 is +6. So you gain 6. -6 gain 6 gives you 0. That's the actual way they're doing. But can you see the confusion? Why students who are on the strong end, when they're teaching a middle end, they're not teaching the real reason why they're doing it. They just do it because they're good at doing the fluency. But that's why students mix between negative and subtraction. They're two totally different things. One's an operation, one's a direction. Yeah? So this is my personal way of teaching you so you understand the difference between subtraction and a negative. Okay? But if at the end of the day, you prefer doing this and you're still getting your answers right, you'll still get through high school mathematics without truly understanding that. Because I'm pretty sure my year 12s, there'll be some kids who will do from this to this to this, and they still don't know why and what they've done because they just memorized it. And so maths, you can memorize up to a certain point. And then when you get to real hardcore maths at year 12, a lot of it comes back to how well do you understand something. The more you understand, the easier it is to understand applications. If not, the more practice you do, the better you get at fluency, not so much problem solving. Okay? So I'm hoping to demystify that point if you're confused between minus and negative. Okay? All right, let's zoom out. Let's try this one now. C. So I'm only going to do 2 more examples. The rest I've got notes for the other side for you to look at later on. So we've got to do C and then we're going to do D. D is tricky because I'm going to show you the common mistake that students do. C should be pretty straightforward. So here we go. Let's do it again. BODMAS. What comes first? Brackets. So here we go. I highlight the brackets. Inside the brackets, what do I have? -4. And there's nothing else to do. So you write down what you see. -4. That's the first thing I do. So I got a -4. I still have this 4 at the front. I still have a subtraction sign. I still have a 2 cubed. And I still have a division. I haven't changed anything. All I did was brackets. There we go. My brackets is -4. After brackets, what's the next one? Order. So we then check for any powers. And in this case, I do have 2 cubed. Okay, 2 to the power 3. Now, another common mistake for those who aren't really strong with powers. 2 cubed, a lot of students will say it's 6 because they're doing 2 times 3, which is 6, but it's wrong. What does 2 cubed really mean? Very good. It is the repeated multiplication 3 times. It actually means 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. Because 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8. Not. When you say 2 times 3, what you're saying is 2 plus 2 plus 2. That's how you're getting 6. Okay, so two different things. If you're making those mistakes, it means that you haven't fully, truly understood powers. Powers is different to addition, and it is very different to multiplication. Yeah? All right, so I'm just going to take that off just in case you didn't realize, but that's what 2 cubed is. So the next step, we are now going to solve 2 to the power of 3, and we just figured out that was 8. Cool, so I've done that. I still keep the 4. I still keep my subtraction. I still keep my division. And I still have my -4. Okay? Then, according to BudMath, so I've done brackets. There's no more powers. What's the next thing you can see? Yes, Lossalia. Division. You got a division. And again, if you're following my proper steps again, you still have a 4. You still have a subtraction sign. What you need to work out is this. This is the bit. 8. Because you're subtracting. What are you subtracting? 8 divided by -4. What's 8 divided by -4? -2. Very good. Because this is a positive number. This is a negative number. Different signs means the overall answer is going to be a negative answer. And 8 divided by 4 is 2. Or how many 4s fit in 8? Yeah, so it fits in twice. So what this means is you got 4, you're subtracting, and 8 divided by -4 was -2. So losing debt. But if you're losing debt, is it overall gain or loss? Gain. So in this case, you are doing 4 and you're gaining 2 because losing debt or minus a negative means you're gaining. So 4 plus 2 gives the answer 6. Okay, so that's C, pretty straightforward. Now D. D is the one that I can pick up. I reckon if I put this in a test, not all of you are going to get it correct because there will still be some students, one, who don't know some square roots, but also that double brackets confuses students. So I'm going to guide you through it. Yeah? And that's my last example for today. So D, BudMath, same thing. We say brackets. Now the thing is, in this bracket, you have another bracket. So I'm going to highlight it. Here we go. We got another bracket. So you take your time unwrapping what you see. So inside the bracket, this is the next thing I got to look at. -5 is inside the bracket. Is there anything else I can do to that -5? No. So that means inside this outer bracket, I've just worked out this is still -5 because there's nothing else to do in that green bracket. Now in the yellow bracket, so I'm going to color yellow here. Yellow. I still have -7 and I'm subtracting -5. So I'll do it in black so it doesn't, it's a bit easier to see. 1E.
Yeah, because we're doing the brackets and the 2 negatives like the positive.
Yes, that's 1F. Yeah. Exercise 1F. Very good. So in this case here, now we're going to solve this bit. This is saying you owe $7 and then you're removing a debt of $5. Okay, so if you're removing debt, overall is positive, good, because you're gaining. Okay, if you remove debt, you're gaining. So this is the same thing as saying -7 gaining $5 because you're removing debt. Now notice, even though I'm working in the brackets, don't lose track that these things still exist. I still have a root 16. I still have a divide. I still have an 8. And I still have a times. Same thing over here. I still have a root 16. I still have a divide 8. And I still have a times. I'm just working inside the brackets. Let's work out the brackets here. What's -7 plus 5? That's exercise 1E now. So 07 and you earned $5. -2. You still owe $2 if you paid that $5 in debt. Yeah? So here we go. Let's rewrite it. I got root 16 divided by 8 times, and we just worked out that inside this bracket, -7 plus 5 is -2. Now, this is where I'm going to show you where the mistakes will eventually come in. We say BudMath was brackets. Next one should be order. Do you see any powers at the moment? No. But technically, and only when you get to year 9 that you understand, a square root is actually a power. And later on when you actually have a calculator and I can show you, root 16 is actually the same thing as writing 16 to the power of half. So later on with calculators, if you can't do cube root or fourth root, you can actually use powered fractions, and that will be the same thing as third root and fourth root. But for now, since you don't know that, that technically is the next order. Okay, so when you see square roots, that's like powers. Okay, just write that as part of your notes. It's the same thing as powers. Okay, what's root of 16? 4, because square root means what do you times itself to get to 16? Okay, so we go 1 times 1 is 1, 2 times 2 is 4, 3 times 3 is 9, 4 times 4 is 16. So that's why we know root of 16 must be 4. So here I can say, all right, so the next part is after brackets is order. So that one comes next. So this is 4 divided by 8 times -2. Now this is where the mistake comes in. So remember how I told you students do what they feel most comfortable with? See this step here, if you went from left to right, 4 divided by 8, what do you think most students would write? 0.5 is the correct answer, but most students don't write 0.5. Most students will write 2. What do you think they're doing?
They think that like they could just divide it from like any way, even if just like if you do it with the times table.
Very good. So when it comes to division, remember 4 is smaller than 8. You're saying how many 8s fit in 4, right? That doesn't make sense that you end up with $2 each, right? Because if you only have $4 and you're sharing it between 8 people, they have to get less than $2. But this here, the reason was because they're not confident with division. They will either do 8 divided by 4, which makes it 2 and makes it easier for them. Or number 2, they're like, oh, division's too hard. Maybe I'll do it this way. And they'll choose 8 times -2. And it gets you -16, right? The reason why they do this is because they feel it's easier, but what's the problem there? Why can't I do 8 times -2? Aaron? How so? Not necessarily.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's right.
What do we learn?
Left to right.
Left to right. So it doesn't matter. Even if division was here and times was there, still the same thing. You work from left to right. This is the first example. What I mean, that same student who asked me had the same similar problem. They did the times first because it was easier. Then their answer went all off because they didn't go left to right. Don't do what feels good. It's the operation. So the operation, there's a division and multiplication. Both of them are equal. So you can't just choose what feels good. You got to do what you see. So here, yes, you got to move from left to right. So you have to do 4 divided by 8. And be careful when you say 4 divided by 8. Most students write 2. The answer is half. And if you didn't realize this, 4 divided 8 is the same thing as writing 4 over 8. And if you didn't even realize, you know that symbol, the division? That's actually the fraction symbol. That's what numerator denominator is. So it's just saying 4 is the numerator, divide, that's the denominator of 8. That's all it's saying. It's just saying 4 numerator, 8 is the denominator. So 4 over 8 means 4 divided 8. That's what it actually means. So 4 over 8, which most students know, this is half. Okay, which is 0.5. Half times -2. And now, from this logic, we already know 4 over 8 is the same thing as half. What's half of -2? It's half of -2. -1. Or if you think about it logically, -2 is how much you owe. And I say half what you owe. Instead of paying me $2, pay half of it. Then you pay half of 2 that you owe, which is 1. So you owe me -$1. Well, you owe me $1. Okay? So the correct answer should be -1. Can you see the common mistakes here? The division is a problem, and then not working from left to right. That D component, I reckon if I put in a test, I'm pretty certain that I won't get 100% of you get it correct because there's a lot of errors along the way. So there's the square root, there's the double brackets, there's the division, and then the order. So I usually catch 1 or 2 students along the way. All right, team. So that is exercise 1H. You have the session to either work on 1G or you can work on 1H. It's up to you. H is really fluency based. Okay. On the back, these are the notes. If you want to try it yourself, then check the answers on here, or you can just copy the answers into part of your notes. It's up to you. Okay. Only if you want to try. That's just substitution and BODMAS. Okay. So I'm going to leave my notes up there and I'm going to stop the video and then I'll come around and help you.